What is the heaviest thing in the world? Some will say it is a stone. Some will say it is a mountain. Others might say responsibility. But those burdens, heavy as they are, can be shared, carried together, or eventually put down. The heaviest thing in the world is a single word whispered quietly inside your own head. A word so sharp it cuts deeper than steel. A word so heavy it buries dreams before they even breathe. This is the story of Cale, a painter. His hands had the gift to turn colors into emotions. His imagination could find beauty in places most people walked past without noticing. But step into his studio, and you wouldn't see masterpieces. You would see unfinished canvases stacked against every wall, each one carrying promise, but abandoned halfway. It looked less like a gallery and more like a graveyard of ideas that never found life. Why? Because Cale was not painting alone. Behind him, unseen by others but deeply felt by him, was a constant shadow, a whisper that grew louder with every stroke of his brush. Not good enough, not worthy, not real art. It was like a ghost leaning close to his ear, dripping poison with every breath. Sometimes Cale thought he could almost see it, a hazy reflection of himself, only colder, crueler. Where did this ghost come from? Years ago, when Cale was just a boy in school, he had painted a simple sunrise. It wasn't perfect, but it was his first attempt at expressing the fire he felt inside. His teacher held it up before the class, not to praise, but to shame. "This," she said, "is what happens when you don't even try." The room filled with laughter. Cale forced a smile, but inside something cracked. And from that crack, a voice was born. The class forgot by the next week. But Cale never forgot. That voice followed him home. It followed him into adulthood. And over time, it grew teeth. Now, every time he lifted a brush, hesitation followed. Every color he touched, every line he drew, was judged before it could even breathe. He didn't just doubt his work, he doubted himself. And slowly, his talent became his torment. Have you ever felt that way? Standing before your own dreams, but paralyzed, not by the world outside, but by the voice inside. A voice that tells you not to even try because failure is waiting. One evening, Cale's life shifted. A letter arrived, sealed with the crest of a prestigious gallery. They had seen his work. They wanted him to submit a collection for an upcoming exhibition. For most artists, this was the dream. For Cale, it was a nightmare. The critic inside him roared, "You? A gallery? They'll laugh louder this time. Don't embarrass yourself. Don't even start." Instead of celebrating, Cale panicked. That night he wandered the city streets, aimless, suffocated by his own thoughts. His steps carried him to a forgotten alley where a pottery shop glowed softly with warm light. Inside, an old blind woman sat at a wheel, her fingers shaping clay with steady rhythm. Her sight was gone, yet her movements had certainty, even grace. Cale lingered, hoping the silence would hide him, but she spoke without turning her head. "What weighs on you, child?" Something in her tone broke his defenses. He spoke. He told her about his unfinished canvases, the mocking voice, the gallery invitation that felt like a curse. She listened, silent, her hands never pausing on the clay. When he finished, she set the bowl aside and turned her clouded eyes toward him. "Your words," she said quietly, "paint a darker picture than your brush ever could." You speak of your gift as if it were a punishment. Cale dropped his gaze. "But that's what it feels like. Every time I try, the voice tells me I'm a fraud, that my art is worthless, and I believe it." The woman tilted her head, a faint smile playing on her lips, as if she had heard this story many times before. You cannot kill the voice by fighting it. The more you resist, the louder it grows. But you can build another voice beside it, one that is gentler, kinder. She leaned forward. Here is my challenge. For 1 week, you may not judge your work. You must create every day without destroying. And when the day ends, you will speak one good thing about your painting. One word of kindness. Just one. Kyle almost laughed. A single word against a lifetime of cruelty. It felt absurd, but desperation makes even the smallest hope worth trying. He agreed. The first day, Kyle painted with trembling hands. The critic hissed, cruel as ever. Ugly, pointless, childish. By night, staring at the canvas, he found nothing worth saving. But remembering her words, he forced himself to whisper, "It is colorful." The word felt fake, but he spoke it. The second day, he painted again. Again the critic mocked, but again at night he whispered, "It is alive." His chest felt hollow, but he obeyed. And so the days passed. The critic hissed. Kyle painted, and each night he whispered one word. "It is bold. It is free. It is mine." Each word was like a seed planted in barren soil, invisible, maybe useless, but still, a seed. By the seventh day, something shifted. Kyle began to lose himself in the act of creation. Hours vanished. His brush danced faster than the critic's voice. When he stepped back, his breath caught. Before him stood something he had never allowed himself to see before, his masterpiece. But triumph always summons the final test. The critic came roaring back with venom. "This is nothing. A fraud. If anyone sees this, they'll know you're a lie. Destroy it now." Kyle's hand trembled as he raised his brush to slash the canvas. And then, the blind woman's words echoed in his mind. "Say one good thing." His heart pounded. His throat tightened. He looked at the painting, at the colors alive with truth, and whispered, "It is honest." The critic faltered. Its roar crumbled to a whisper. Not gone, not dead, but weaker. And Kyle realized something. He didn't need to kill the critic. He only needed to strengthen another voice. The voice of kindness, the voice of truth. Weeks later, the gallery lights glowed on Kyle's collection. Guests walked from painting to painting, pausing, staring, connecting. His work was not perfect. It was not flawless, but it was his. The critic still whispered. But Kyle now had an answer, not with arrogance, not with pride, but with quiet acceptance. Yet even that night, just before the doors opened, the critic tried once more. "You don't belong here." Kyle's heart raced. For a moment the old fear returned. But then he smiled, closed his eyes, and whispered back, "I do." And for the first time, the critic fell silent. The heaviest thing in the world is not a stone, nor a mountain, nor even the weight of another's judgment. It is the cruel word you speak to yourself. One harsh word can paralyze you, but one kind word, spoken with honesty, can set you free. The inner critic may never vanish, but your voice of encouragement can grow stronger. And it does not begin with a shout. It begins with a whisper. So pause for a moment. Look at your own unfinished dreams, the projects left behind, the hopes you buried too soon. And ask yourself, what word will I choose today? Speak it, even if it feels small, even if it feels false, because that one word may be the seed that grows into something greater. Kyle learned to master his inner world, but many of us are still chained to the past, dragging the weight of old mistakes, replaying them again and again. If you want to break free from that cycle, discover the story of the man who carried a boat, the lesson waiting for you on your screen. And tell me in the comments, what is the one kind word you will speak to yourself today?